What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Valley video, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Orlando regionals, which are less than a week away, and some potential teams and team compositions, I guess, that you're more than likely to encounter within tournament play. Now, so we've done a lot of coaching throughout this past month, prepping some players for the Orlando regionals, and we wish them luck, of course. But just Series 2 in general, because now the start of Series 2 is beginning. And these are still some teams that you're going to see like at the very beginning. So if you're trying to still team build for Series 2, whether it's for the regionals or it's just for ladder, these are more these are more likely the teams that you're going to be seeing, whether it's in the regional or at the start of ranked play, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of these popular teams and archetypes. So this way you have an idea of just what it is you're dealing with if you're trying to compete in Orlando or if you're just trying to get ready for ranked ladder, right? So let's go ahead and go on with the first thing. All right, so the first thing I want to look at is, Roaring Moon stuff, and more specifically like Roaring Moon with Ironhands Garganical stuff. So this is like the Fede compo composition, and not only has he been using it, but others have been using it as well throughout like these past online tournaments, whether it's like the Beanie Brawl, Nino Pokebros Tour, Wide League, or whatever other tour there is. Some of the smaller stuff, Duran's TV, this is a very common team that you'll see. And again, there's some variance within a lot of these teams that we're going to show you today in this video, but for the most part, this is like a relatively standard composition and standard core, right? You're going to have the Roaring Moon with Tailwind. You might see Throat Chop instead of Jaw Lock. The Arcanine, very standard bulky set with like Flare Blitz, Snarl, Will-O-Wisp, Iron Bundle, Sash, with the 3 stab moves, with the Speed Control, Icy Wind. Amoonguss, again, 4 attacks, Pollen Puff and Clear Smog, 4 moves, I should say, Rage Powder, Smog, along with those 2. The Iron Hands, again, just like a standard fake out, Wild Charge, Drain Punch, and you might see a pivot move like Volt Switch. All right, you could even see like Terra Ground, Stomping Tantrum. We've done that before. You might see like Terra Fire, so you don't get burned. But for the most part, the Iron Hands is on the team, and then the Garganical. Now, up until recently, the most common thing was like Terra Poison, but now you might see like Terra Ghost or even like Terra Grass. The Grass being, of course, resistant to the ground stuff that was being pushed around right now. And then at the same time, Terra Ghost is really good against the fighting coverage, right? So these 2 other, Terra types for Garganical are rising, and you might see that variance and that difference in Orlando, right? So, but as far as like, this is the main core, right? You have a Paradox like Roaring Moon, then you have a Fire, Water, Grass core, and then 2 fillers, right? And the filler being Garganical for like endgame stuff, with Salt Cures and like alternating protects and recovers, and then another dominant physical sweeper like the Iron Hands, right? And then you're just relying on like pivoting and positioning, neutralizing things with the Arcanine, getting speed control with the Iron Bundle and Tailwind, and then just going for big sweeps with, the Roaring Moon and Iron Hands, chipping things down, and then this way the Garganical comes in the back and finishes the job with like Salt Cure stuff, right? So that's the idea with this kind of Roaring Moon team. So expect to see this quite a bit, whether it's on ladder or you might see this, within Orlando regionals. The other kind of Roaring Moon team that you might see, okay, is this one, where it's actually like Iron Hands Furrygraph core, right? So it's still Roaring Moon with the Fire, Water, Grass core, and the 2 fillers in this case, still Iron Hands, but instead of the, Garganical, you're still gonna see like Furrygraph. And this is where like Trick Room comes into play. So Iron Hands Trick Room is, another kind of deal that you might see, where like the Roaring Moon is actually supporting the Iron Hands Trick Room core. So you set up Trick Room with Furrygraph, you can sport things with Amoonguss, or you just get the speed advantage overall with the Iron Hands. And then the same idea, you still have this Fire, Water, Grass core, and then maybe after Trick Room Moon is up, then you have the Roaring Moon to come in the back and finish the job, right? With like hard-hitting acrobatics or throat chops, and you have the bulk, after everything has been chipped or neutralized with Intimidate, Snarls, and Will-O-Wisp, that the Roaring Moon could just take everything, with its raw bulk and then, just finish things off, right? Or the reverse side where like you start off strong with like Iron Bundle Roaring Moon, you go for Icy Wind stuff and then just do a bunch of damage with the Roaring Moon. And then you come in the end game with like Iron Hands plus one of these fillers, like even the Furrygraph Trick Room stuff, right? So that's another kind of archetype that you would see, and it's very effective and it's very easy, right, to try and use. It's a good starter team. And by the way, any of these teams that I show you, if you want like EV spreads, or if you want to like do a team building session with me with any of these, again, that's a tier 3 sub to the channel. So make sure you check every single video, there's a join button if you're interested in, you know, trying to build a team with me, or, you know, just so I can show you how to build the EV spreads, and then maybe make some changes with the movesets and item choices. Or if you have a team that you have yourself and that you just want optimized, you know, that's a tier 2 sub to the channel. Anyway, so that's it for like the Iron Hand stuff. So no, well, not in general the Iron Hand stuff, but that's like Roaring Moon plus like Ferrigraph Iron Hands, right? The other one was like Roaring Moon plus Garganical Iron Hands. So let's look at another kind of archetype that you might see. Okay, the next thing you might see is like pretty much standard rain, right? So standard rain teams, you know, the core revolves around Pelipper, Palafin, and Amoonguss. This is your core. And then the other 3 slots is like up for debate and up for, you know, speculation. But the reason why rain teams sometimes they struggle in this kind of format is because all of these 3 options, whether it's Palafin, Pelipper, and Amoonguss, they're all weak to the Iron Bundle. Okay, whether it's Freeze Dry, actually all 3 of these are weak to Freeze Dry, right? So that's a struggle there. And then the Iron Bundle gets a nice boost in the rain, you know, for its Hydro Pump. So from there, you always need something, you know, with your other 3 slots, maybe even like 2 of the slots can counter the Iron Bundle stuff. So this is why you see a strong steel type like Goldango and or King Gambit, or instead of the King Gambit, you see something like this with the Iron Hands. And the Iron Hands, you know, deal super effective damage with the fighting move or the electric move. The Goldango also has the strong steel move, but also the Goldango benefits here, you know, because of Tailwind support, you know, make it fast for Make It Rain. And then, you know, you have the rain to reduce fire damage against the Goldango, right? And you always have like a pivot option to swap out the Goldango in case of a ground type attack into the Pelipper, which is a flying type attack. And then, you know, same idea with the Roaring Moon if it's already teared into a flying type, right? So then from here, the last slot, you know, I've seen Roaring Moon. You can even see Flutter Mane in this slot. It's up for variance, of course. But again, the main 5 is here, right? You have these 3 with like Pelipper, Palafin, and Amoonguss, plus your 3 fillers. Usually 1 or 2 of these slots is to help you against the Iron Bundle matchup, and then 1 other filler, right? Something like a Roaring Moon or a Flutter Mane, or even a Garganical or something like that. But prepare for rain. So again, you want to make sure that the Pelipper, you know, you remove it from the field, so this way the Palafin doesn't get any boost, and this way the Goldango's, you know, rain protection against fire type attacks is done. And then at the same time, you know, you have some kind of ground coverage for these 2 if, you know, if this is the archetype here. But overall, you know, the Palafin, you know, will often lead in games, you know, not necessarily lead, but, you know, it has that option to, you know, just come in and then come back out later on, you know, swap something else in. So just be aware of that. And again, of course, late game Goldango with Tailwind is just very dangerous in general, right? So that's the idea with this team composition. We built this team like 3 times for like 3 different subs. So, you know, if you're interested in this kind of rain team, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's very easy. It's very easy to like try and use early on in ladder. We'll probably put this out as a rental, you know, in the upcoming day. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But a different kind of rain team that you might see besides this, that was like standard rain. You might see something like this, where it's like Rain Perish, right? So you still have Pelipper, Palafin, Iron Hands, and Amoonguss, but then you have Flutter Mane, Gothitelle, and then the Flutter Mane is going for stuff like Perish Song, okay? And it has the Gothitelle for like support stuff with Trick Room, and then fake out stuff. You know, you trap things in with Shadow Tag, and then you pivot in position, you know, with the Palafin, you know, flip turn stuff, Volt Switch stuff, you know, protects, you know, Amoonguss loves to soak up damage and then swap it back out, you know, regain more health over time. And then by that time, you know, everything has died to, you know, Perish Trap, right? So you might see this where teams are just slapping on this kind of thing with the rain core. So be ready for that. It's already got a couple of good tournament placements, but it's actually a pretty solid team in general. Like, so if you like Perish Trap, definitely consider that. But if you just like standard Perish, you know, I think the team from Justin Burns is pretty much the ideal thing. So it's almost the same stuff, just without the Pelipper. So you still have Palafin, you still have Gothitelle, Flutter Mane, and the Iron Hands and Amoonguss. Just in place of the Pelipper, you have like the Arcanine, right? So it's just like a more supportive, bulky stuff, you know. But again, it's still about the Flutter Mane going for Perish, and a lot of pivoting and positioning with the Iron Hands, and even switching out the Amoonguss and stuff like that, right? And healing yourself with Gothitelle Heal Pulse, right? So that's the thing. You know, again, we're not saying we're predicting the 100% team cores and team composition. What we're showing you is the cores, right? But there is some variance, which, you know, does affect the playstyle a little bit of the team. But at the very least, be prepared for the core, right? So, you know, let's move on to another one. So some of the other Flutter Mane teams that you might run into, besides like the Rain Perish, you might run into like the Flutter Mane Garganical balance, right? So instead of like the Roaring Moon, you'll have the Flutter Mane plus a Fire Water Grass core, and then the Iron Hands and the Garganical are in the back, you know, just like kind of chilling here like two homies, right? And the whole idea here is you have two physical attackers, you know, the Iron Hands and Garganical. Technically, this is not even a physical attacker. And then you have 2 or 3 special sweepers like this with the Flutter Mane Volcarona and the Iron Bundle, and then the Amoonguss is just like the support along with the bundle again. So with this Volcarona set, you know, instead of the Arcanine, which you can definitely put here, but you might have a difference of fire types here. But I think the most common choice is something like an Arcanine or a Volcarona, right? So from here, again, what you want to see and what you want to note is this Volcarona is going to be like Terra Grass. And that's actually not too bad in certain situations against the bundle, for example, because if they're going for like these hard-hitting Hydro Pumps, you know, you can always just go into Terra Grass, click Giga Drain, or click Quiver Dance, and then be able to take that and, you know, soak up, you know, the water damage and then, you know, just, you know, KO them. Now, they might try and read that and just click Freeze Dry anyway, but you have so much special defense pull that you're going to be able to live that and still get off the Quiver Dance and then make them pay next turn, right? So the Flutter Mane, same idea. You might have like Trick Room on this, or you might have another move like Moonblast. But again, the idea is still the same, right? You're still applying special attack pressure. The Amoonguss, you know, you might even see like Rocky Helmet, Mental Herb, you know, Focus Sash, you know, Copa Berry, one or the other. I just put on Mental Herb here because of Taunt. So, but at the very least, again, same idea. And then the Garganical, of course, either Terra Ghost or, you know, Terra Poison, Terra Grass. These are all options. And the Iron Hands, again, it's just a very standard set, right? So this is like Flutter Mane balance. So you might see this. You might even like start out with this for Series 2 if you're not playing in Orlando Regionals. It's just another solid, standard, consistent team. And if it's something that you like, again, sign up for team building coaching, all right? Another kind of Flutter Mane team, all right, is the one where it's paired with Iron Moth and Goldango. And the whole idea here is the Iron Moth is able to support the Flutter Mane and go for stuff like Acid Spray, where the Acid Spray will, you know, drop special defenses by 2 stages, which allows the Flutter Mane to, you know, go for choice specs and go for hard hitting, either Shadow Balls, Mystical Fires, Moonblast, or Dazzling Gleams. So that's the idea there. The Iron Moth supports the Flutter Mane, and it works as well with the Goldango. Same concept, where like you drop special defenses and then Goldango takes advantage and is able to sweep, right? And typically, you know, these 3, or at least with these 2, you find them in the back end, or at least in the front end of like Dondozo Tatsugiri squads, right? And, you know, the most successful type of Iron Moth Flutter Manes that we've seen so far in like in the tournaments has been on the back end of Dondozo Tatsugiri. So, you know, I'm not saying you can't see these 2 outside of it, because you definitely can, but at the very least, the most success that we've seen up until this point in tournament play has been something like this, all right? So just be aware of that, you know, and again, it's open team sheet, so you will understand that this is Acid Spray, and then, you know, you're just meant to support these 2 homies, right? So there's the idea there. But yeah, those are like the common Flutter Mane teams. You'll see, of course, other ones, but I can't go through like all of every single Flutter Mane team. I'm just going over like the common stuff that we've seen up until this moment with like good success as of this moment, right? So let's keep going with some other archetypes. Okay, the other one that you might see is like Great Tusk stuff, which is actually rising. This is the new kid on the block, right? Great Tusk has been rising within the last week and a half or so. You know, we've covered it on the channel a couple times as a result, and it just makes a lot of sense. It's very bulky with the Assault Vest. It can run 4 very good coverage moves, and when it's paired with Talonflame, this is the thing that was rising, right? When it's paired with Talonflame, you're able to go for priority Tailwind, and then in turn, Great Tusk, unlike Iron Hands, which has 30 more speed than Iron Hands, is able to take full advantage of that Tailwind. You can Earthquake next to your Talonflame, deal a bunch of damage, and then rely on either Goldango, Iron Bundle, or Roaring Moon to come in from the back and finish the job, right? So, you know, with Talonflame, besides Tailwind, you're able to support your team with like Will-O-Wisp and Taunt. You have Covert Cloak here, you know, just for like annoying Garganical stuff, annoying Fake Out stuff. The Terra Ghost, I've gotten some questions about this in the other video. This is like for Dragonite Eat Speed shenanigans, so, you know, just for that, you don't want to like die to that. So that's why you have Terra Ghost here. But again, Great Tusk is great, has great coverage, you know, that's not a pun. But yeah, definitely consider this. I've done like, you know, either knockoff or brick break in place of close combat, and I had the other fighting move there if it was knockoff. But, you know, close combat is just a really, really good stab move, you know, and with base 131 attack, it's going to KO a lot of things. All right, Goldango, another life orb. Goldango get set here, you know, pairs really well with Amoonguss because you can support it with redirection. And then, you know, with Talonflame coming in and clicking Tailwind, Goldango just hits super hard. Iron Bundle, same idea. You could do like Iron Bundle Great Tusk or Iron Bundle Roaring Moon leads, Iron Bundle Talonflame leads, support with Icy Wind, and then just go from there. Breaking Swipe on Roaring Moon is actually really good. You might not even just see it on this team, you might just see it overall. Like Breaking Swipe value with Roaring Moon is super good, especially against stuff like Great Tusk and Iron Hands. Those two very much suffer from Breaking Swipe, and even just Intimidate overall. So you get some good value with Roaring Moon in that regard. And of course, it's just a standard Terra Flying set with like Throat Chop Acrobatics. There's like good synergy here with Great Tusk if you are able to Terra the Roaring Moon, because you can just Earthquake next to the Roaring Moon, right? If you go for Terra Flying. So this is one kind of Great Tusk team. Just apply a lot of pressure with like Talonflame plus either Great Tusk Goldango or, you know, Iron Bundle Roaring Moon leads with the other core in the back. And then ideally when one core is done, the other one can just come in and finish the game after all the pressure is finished. There is another kind of Great Tusk team. This one might not necessarily have Talonflame, but it has stuff like Sylveon and Tyranitar over here. I forgot to fill in the Sylveon slot. It's pretty much very standard stuff, you know, just like Throat Spray. All right, Hyper Voice, you know, just Terra Blast, Quick Attack, Terra Blast, and then just Protect, right? Something like this. And then with Terra Fairy, extra damage, or Terra Fire, just to like resist the steel stuff. But again, Sylveon works a lot, does very well here. So same with Tyranitar. If anything, you might have even seen like some kind of Assault Vest Tyranitar, or technically Choice Band stuff. But the idea is pretty much the same. You know, you can Earthquake next to this if it goes for Terra Flying. Sylveon benefits from Tailwind. Great Tusk benefits from Tailwind. And the Arcanine is just meant to support along with the Iron Bundle stuff, right? So you might see this kind of composition. Typically, instead of the Tyranitar slot, you might even see like a dragon, something like Dragonite or Hydreigon, for example, because, you know, they have Levitate. You know, it's a flying type. It's another good thing to Earthquake next to. So you might see that in place of the Tyranitar. So just be aware of that. But again, besides the variants, the core pretty much is the same. So be ready to see something like this. All right, so let's move on to the next couple of archetypes. Okay, this one is something that we talked about in the other video. You might see like the Indeedee Armarouge cores with the snow core of Abomasnow and Iron Bundle, right? So the idea here is with the snow core, you're able to like either spam Blizzard and then set up screens with the Aurora Veil, and then have Iron Bundle or Armarouge come in from the back and just finish the job behind those screens, right? On the flip side, you have like Indeedee Armarouge, set up Trick 'em with Indeedee. The Armarouge, you know, also has a lot of pressure here, you know, just for like big life orb damage. If you want, you can go with like the weakness policy set here, and then just go with like weak armor instead, right? And then what that would do is you would change the sets of the team, where something like Iron Bundle would go with an Assault Vest and go with like Flip Turn instead of Blizzard, or, you know, one of these other moves. And then the Abomasnow would have something like Ice Shard to proc the, you know, the weakness policy here. You know, you do have to Terra Grass if you're going to go for the Ice Shard stuff, whereas the Iron Bundle can just go for like a simple Flip Turn, and then the Armarouge is able to take that. You know, you have pretty good defensive bulk, but again, you know, weak armor plus weakness policy, and then you Flip Turn into the Indeedee, and then the Armarouge is just going for like the biggest, hardest hitting expanding force on the face of the planet, right? So that's the idea there. The Roaring Moon, again, is just meant to support the team in general. Iron Head, really good against like the you know, the fairy stuff like Grimmsnarl, Flutter Mane, Sylveon. Terra Steel is the option here. So again, you're going to see some variants. You might not even see Iron Head. You might see just like a standard acrobatic set. But the whole point is you have that fast mode with Roaring Moon if you need it, which Armarouge can function with, as well as Iron Bundle and even Abomasnow, right? So that's the idea there. Expect to see this, especially in the Series 2 ladder. I think it's a very, very solid, consistent core. So if you want to build this, let me know. And then from here, another kind of Armarouge Indeedee core is the old school Mousehold Annihilate stuff, where like this has Frengard and this has Beat Up, okay, and this has, of course, the Vital Spirit stuff, not really Vital, or even like Defiant stuff, and then you just, you know, take a bunch of damage. You go for like hardest hitting Rage Fist, you know, and then the bulk up stuff with Protect. Okay, this is the idea here. You just make Annihilate hit super, super hard. you know, of course, something that we've seen for a very long time. Indeedee Armarouge stuff we just talked about. And then Roaring Moon +1 filler. I threw in the Amoonguss in here just for like something else that wants to do a bunch of damage in Trickum. You could even see like Torkoal in this slot sometimes, but I don't really like Torkoal because now you're just giving your opponent the photosynthesis boost as well, right? So I just slapped on the Amoonguss here. I think this is also seen in the tournament, right? So go figure there. So Indeedee Annihilate, or like Indeedee Mousehold, Indeedee Armarouge, Roaring Moon Mousehold. You know, these are just all annoying leads. This 4 is definitely a strong core in Series 1 and is also now a strong core in Series 2. So definitely keep an eye out for these two. But yeah, Indeedee Armarouge cores. Then you might also see the Screens 45 Mice team with Ally VGC. Again, the whole point here was Misty Terrain, which means you can't really burn or sleep your Iron Hands, which is very important. The Gastronon was actually Terra Fire, I believe, you know, just because it walls the Iron Bundle, which is very important. Terra, I believe it was Terra Ground or Terra Fire. I think it was Terra Ground Sylveon. Same idea. You're able to beat the mirror against the Iron Hands. Arcanine just supports overall. You know, also is a more aggressive set with the Assault Vest. Psychic Fans, you can break screens. Snarl, of course, neuter special attack damage, and then E-Speed. You know, you're just able to do a bunch of damage with it. And I think this was like Terra Normal, if anything, right? So there's that. The Corviknight, Terra Dragon Corviknight, it's actually really, really underrated, so don't underestimate it. Ironhead Bravery, your 2 attack moves, then bulk up set with Roost, so you have like endgame potential, which is really, really nice because then you're just getting recovery, clicking bulk up, getting recovery, clicking bulk up. And then finally, you're so bulky they can't do any damage to you, then you just smash them, right? And you know, behind screens and behind Arcanine, Intimidate, and Snarl stuff, the Gastrodon and Iron Hands and even Sylveon are just very, very hard to remove, right? So, you know, this was a very good squad, so hats off to them once again, and you're gonna see people use this. All right, so just be on the lookout for that. Maybe even like some variants, but you know, definitely don't be surprised if you see this 6. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now what we're actually going to do is take a look at some potential sleepers that you might see either in Orlando or like in Series 2, just in general, at least for the start. Of course, you'll see like maybe some Terrafire Gastrodon, you know, just because again how well it walls the bundle, and then you're just able to force out positioning with yawn pressure. The idea here again is just be annoying, stay on the field, and neutralize those rain teams, neutralize the Arcanine's ground coverage against Garganical stuff. It's just a really good Pokemon. The only problem is the bulk, and the Gastrodon can really do well if it's supported by like Arcanine and or Grimmsnarl screens, but without it, it feels like kind of bad. So just be aware of it. Again, that's why we put it as a sleeper. It's not like going to be super meta, super like strong, but it can be if it's on like the right kind of team. So it just does really well. It has a good niche, and things are going to have a hard time breaking it as long as the things that can't be broken are there. In other words, the screens and, you know, the Intimidate, Snarl stuff. All right, back to Excalibur. I think it's still a pretty good Pokemon even now. You know, it still has some good results. The ice coverage is really good, especially with the rise of like, you know, what's his face? Great Tusk, and then, you know, of course, it does super effective damage against the other dragons with like either the less common Salamence or the Roaring Moon. So great idea there, and just you can't burn it, right? So Arcanine doesn't really do a whole lot with Will-O-Wisp. You can catch it off guard if there's something like a Flare Blitz incoming, so you can use Thermal Exchange to your advantage there. But Baxcalibur has a decent niche. I don't think it's as good as towards the end of Series 1, but it has something there. Sandy Shocks, this one has developed as of late just because, again, it puts on a lot of pressure with good special attack damage. That speed tier that it has of 101 is really important. You're able to outspeed, you know, the fastest of Volcaronas, and then just having good coverage with electric and ground types, right? You're able to put pressure on the Garganicals, the steel types, you know, Goldangos and Roaring Moons. I'm sorry, Goldangos and King Gambits. Okay, and you know, Terra Flying, not Salamence, Roaring Moon also can suffer from electric damage. So there's the idea, and again, also the bundle. Okay, you can put a little bit of pressure there. It's almost like even because he also has like freeze dry stuff. So just be aware of that. But that's why you have like Terra Electric or even like Terra Flying, for example, right? Where you're able to just dodge those electric attacks in general. I mean ground types. The Salamence has had some good success on rain teams, but you can also pilot it outside of rain. I think it does relatively well in some situations as opposed to the Roaring Moon. I would change this Terra type by the way, I forgot to change it. But anyway, you'll definitely see them run stuff like Tailwind plus Draco Meteor plus some filler, whether it be Hurricane if it's on a rain team or Air Slash if it's outside of it. You know, just like really good special attack coverage in general, as opposed to the Roaring Moon, which is physical. You still get your Intimidate boost. So because of this, you can run Volcarona instead of Arcanine and be more aggressive with your fire type options. But definitely could see Salmon see some play within Orlando. Corviknight also really good, especially this Terra Dragon set. You resist fire type attacks, you resist electric type attacks. Again, this is the 45 my set. Amoonguss can't spore you, so there's that. And just being able to bulk up and regenerate with Roost, and just make these attacks hit super hard is really nice. So definitely expect to see some Corviknight within top cut. Scizor also another one of those sleeper picks. Bug coverage is really nice right now, especially against those dark types like a Roaring Moon, for example. Psychic types too. Bullet Punch, you're just able to smack the Flutter Mane out of the next week. Of course, definitely really nice. Close combat, good against other steals, especially King Gambit. You can just remove it from the field instantly. Terra Blast with Terra Water typing, you can pin the Arcanine slot and just wreck them. And then with your Assault Vest, you're able to take like a lot of those special attack damages, especially from like a Volcarona, for example. But this is why you have Terra Water, so there's the idea there. A couple of other sleepers that I like to pinpoint. The Hatterene is actually having some decent, notable, not spotty tournament success. And you might say, why not just use Armarouge? The problem with Armarouge is that it takes super effective damage from a dark type attack, right? From a Roaring Moon. Hatterene does not. So there's the main niche for Hatterene in that regard. So go figure with that. But Magic Bounce is also a really good ability. So, that's also understandable. And you're able to put on Fairy Pressure against the Roaring Moon, which the Armarouge cannot do. All right, so there's the niche merit of using Hatterene over Armarouge in that regard. Not saying it's a better Pokemon. I'm saying you have that niche and you could see some play within Orlando. Spot Throw. So this thing has had a couple of results and it makes a lot of sense, especially if it has like a speed boost idea. Okay, so with Hypnosis, Lumina Crash, and Dazzling Gleam, again with Terra Fairy, you're able to put on more damage against those dark types like a Roaring Moon. But just protecting and getting speed control, you can outspeed eventually the Iron Bundles and the Flutter Mane stuff, and then just go for like these big Lumina Crashes with no drawback, right? Base 80 power, 100% accurate. You lower special defense by 2, so your next Lumina Crash is going to do more damage. Or something like a Goldango and a Flutter Mane can come in and also deal like extra damage on top of this Lumina Crash, which is much better than like Acid Spray stuff, just because Lumina Crash has like more damage. So there's the idea there. Mudsdale, really good into Iron Hands. You win that mirror. Assault Vest is also really good, just because you get a little bit more extra special defense bulk, which is it's already bulky to begin with, right? And it's almost comparable to like Iron Hands and like Great Tusk, where you have triple digits in like HP, attack, and defense, but like low special defense and somewhat slow speed, which is really good. That's what we want. And you have good coverage here with like these 4 attack moves. You might have some variants here, but for the most part, this is ideal. Stamina is really good, especially if they can't break you. You're just getting a bunch of defense boosts, and your body pressures are just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, right? High horsepower, again, good coverage against the electric type attacks like the Iron Hands. Poison Garganical is going to have a hard time breaking this as well, assuming it stays Poison Garganical. The rise of Ghost and what's the other one? Grass is also within reach. Brute Bonnet, I've seen this a little bit more as of late. It makes a lot of sense, especially with like a loaded dice bullet seed set, where it's just doing a lot of damage with base 127 attack. You might see this on some rain teams as opposed to the Amoonguss. But again, unlike the Amoonguss, which is more passive, the Brute Bonnet can actually exert offensive pressure. And then under Tailwind, you just outspeed everything, right? Because 107, double the speed, you outspeed even Dragon Bolt. So that's important. Tyranitar, if anything, could see some interesting play within Orlando, just because of like the amount of move coverage you can get, especially with the Assault Vest. If you have the Sandstream and the Assault Vest, do you know how much damage you're taking from like Flutter Mane stuff or even Iron Bundle stuff? Almost very little, because you get a special defense boost Assault Vest, special defense boost with Sandstream. You're very bulky as it is with base 100 HP and base 100 special defense. I don't care if Tyranitar has like all 60 weaknesses. The fact that you have all this bulk means they can't really touch you all that much. The only thing you have to worry about is maybe like a close combat stuff, but even then, that's avoidable. You can just go into like Terra Dark or Terra Ghost for rather, Terra Psychic. That's what I meant. Good move coverage here with Rock Slide and Crunch, of course, and then you could have like Terra Blast with something else. If you have like a different Terra, and then Iron Head for like a steel move. You can even put ground coverage here. Tyranitar can do it, right? I just believe in its bulk. Some people have done or have had great success already. It's just a matter of like putting it together on the right team and having that right kind of run, right? So that's gonna do it for my sleepers, and that's gonna do it for like our team archetypes here that you might see, you know, either starting of Series 2 or within Orlando. So let me know what you think. And again, this is not like the be all end all. You're definitely gonna see like some of these cores with some variants of what we see. So maybe 1 or 2 mons are swapped out with like some other 1 or 2 meta mons. But the idea, I just wanted to break down and just put into light some of the more common stuff that you're gonna see as of right now, heading into Orlando and heading into Series 2. All right. So again, check out coaching on the channel. There's a join button with every video, like we said within this video. If you check the comment section or the video description, there's also a link there to join our coaching with tier 3 sub to the channel, where you and I, we can sit down in the Discord call and build the team from scratch. Or if you're able to just have a team in general, you know, with that something that you built, you can send it to me and I'll take a look at it and send it right back with some fix-ups and some changes. That's a tier 2 sub to the channel. But again, once you do register, just message me on Discord and then we can plan our session from there. We'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.